Jovan, Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, NBA reporter for Buha's Block, and welcome to another live show. The Lakers won their 9th straight game on a Luka Kennard game-winning three-pointer. Two beautiful baseline out-of-bounds sets, actually sideline out-of-bounds set, then a baseline out-of-bounds set from JJ Redick. Impeccable execution down the stretch of this game from the Lakers. Another clutch win for LA, the best clutch team in the NBA. And they danced with their mortality tonight. It looked like all good things were going to come to an end tonight, but the Lakers live to fight another day. They extended their streak to 9. They now have a real shot to sweep this road trip. They got 2 more games left, 2 very winnable games, though one of the games now could be hanging in the balance depending on what happens with Luka Doncic, who picked up his 16th technical in a double technical with Goga Batadze. We'll talk about that. I know that was a very controversial ruling, but LA 4-0 on this road trip, just finding ways to win, finding ways to gut these games out. They improved to 46-25 and maintain a 3.5 game lead over the number 4 Houston Rockets. So they are just cementing themselves right now as the number 3 seed, and barring an unforeseen collapse here down the stretch, the Lakers are really looking like they're going to be the number 3 seed, and now it's just a matter of who they play in that 3-6 matchup. I feel like it's going to end up being Houston or Minnesota, but it technically could be any of those two plus Denver. And Luka Kennard, I mean, just we got to talk about him and the trade and the last 5 seconds of that game. But shout out to the chat, shout out to the late night gang. Appreciate you all. And as Lakers Visuals says, everyone make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, late night gang. Yes, for those of you tuning in, if you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. And Notorious CRG, we will just get into this first super chat here. Ball was off Banchero and foul was on Banchero. I agree with both of those. Well, actually, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. But yeah, it was crazy 5 seconds to end this game. But I want to get into Buha's big picture, and I want to revisit the Luka Kennard trade because Luke has been in a slump these last few games. By his standards, he has not made the impact that we were accustomed to. And tonight he broke out in a real way, scoring 13 points on 5 for 7 shooting, hitting 3 threes, including the game winner, 3 rebounds, and first double-digit game since the Minnesota game, which was almost a little over a week and a half ago. He had 3 straight double-digit games, culminating with that one, and then these last 5 games had been at 5 points or fewer. Had 2 games where he went a combined 0 for 3 on threes. 4 of those 5 games, he didn't attempt more than 2 threes, period. And then one of those games against Chicago, he went 1 for 7 and 1 for 5 on threes. And despite that, despite the recent slump, he has provided, and I don't mean to pick on Gabe. It's just a direct comparison because they were traded for one another, plus the second round pick. Like, he's just provided such a bigger boost off the bench than Gabe Vincent did. And forget everything else he's done up to this point, like hitting the game winner tonight to save the Lakers on just a chaotic final 5 seconds of this game. I just thought, this alone made the trade a win for the Lakers. But of course, Luke had been playing really good basketball, and he had become an important piece, especially once he finally played with Luka. Because remember, when he first made his debut, he didn't play with Luka for the first few games. But playing off of Luka, playing off of LeBron, playing off of Austin, he has been such a weapon for the Lakers. And even the nights when he's not getting a certain amount of volume up, or making a certain amount of points, certain amount of threes, his gravity and the way that defenses respect him commands so much attention that it just it often allows the Lakers to play 4-on-4. And then if you can create an advantage by getting downhill or running a pick and roll and getting a short roll playmaking situation, all of a sudden that's now a 4-on-3 or even 4-on-2 situation. So Luke has been awesome for LA off the bench. And I think like this, we already knew what Luke could do. I mean, he's having the best shooting season in the NBA, even with the recent struggles, but he is one of the best shooters in the league. And I want to give the front office credit here for identifying this need. And I think going into the deadline, we all wanted more defense. We wanted more athleticism. We wanted more two-way play. The Lakers did not go out and get that, but they also needed more shooting. Like that was one of the things we had discussed of, in general, this group needs more athleticism. They need more defense. And like the third need is probably shooting. But we've seen with Luka's uptick in three-point shooting, with Rui still being a stable three-point shooter, with Austin shooting better, with LeBron shooting better, with Marcus shooting better, and then you add Luke Kennard on top of that, like the Lakers have become an elite three-point shooting team, and post All-Star break have consistently been a top 5 three-point shooting team in terms of percentage. So he's fitting great and been a real weapon for them off the bench. And a night like tonight, to be able to have him out there, I mean, that's just a real luxury. And you see the way the Lakers close the game with the big three plus Marcus as the inbounder, and then Luke as that fourth player, fourth shooting option, and he is the one that ends up getting open. So let's get into we'll save one of the takeaways for the 5 final seconds and just kind of the madness with all that. But I just wanted to acknowledge, like, this by itself to me made, like, if you can acquire a player who helps you win a game in a clear way of, like, I mean, there's a lot of things that went into the Lakers winning this game. I'm not saying it was all Luke, but Luke hit the game-winning shot, and he did provide. I mean, he was the leading bench scorer tonight on another game where the bench was a bit shaky, at least offensively, outside of Jackson, who I thought played pretty well. And the Lakers just did not, similar to the first half of the Miami game, legs looked shot tonight. I thought the energy and effort were largely there, but the shot making wasn't there. They only made 25% of their threes tonight. Were missing free throws and just were not quite themselves offensively. And this ended up being a game that went into the final minute, both sides trading baskets, and just another masterclass by LA in the clutch. And they found a way to pull this off. But Luke, again, like this was such a win for the Lakers with this deal. Yes, it was a small move. And yes, like Luke, I think during this tougher stretch of the schedule, as they've played some of the better teams, some of the more playoff ready teams, like he has been a little exposed defensively. He hasn't been getting the same shot quality offensively necessarily. His role has been marginalized, both on the floor, but also just in general in the rotation. So, like, we'll see where this goes the rest of the season and sort of his spot in the playoff hierarchy. But compared to what they were previously getting, the cost of Gabe Vincent plus a second round pick, like, this was such a win for the Lakers. And we are now almost a month and a half, a little over a month and a half past that, about almost 7 weeks. It continues to be a win for the Lakers. So just a shrewd move that added, replaced an underperforming rotation player with, at times, I think even an overperforming rotation player with some of the shooting stuff he was doing with the Lakers early. He obviously regressed to the mean a little bit lately, but I think he's going to stabilize. Then in terms of notable performers, I mean, we can start with Luke Kennard off the bench with the 13 points, 5 for 7 shooting, 3 for 4 on threes, 3 rebounds, and 1 game-winning shot. But then going back to the starting group, Luka had in his most inefficient night in a month. And interestingly, the last time he had a game this inefficient, well, so it was technically the Denver game, but you put that, like, that one was a little different in terms of, for me, like the war of attrition in that game. And that felt like a game 7. So you can include that one if you want to. We won't fault you, but realistically, this was his most inefficient game going back to like the last Orlando game on February 20th. And Luka started this game off great. He had 16 points in the first quarter, 24 points in the first half, made 7 of his first 10 shots, then goes 5 for 20 the rest of the way to finish 12 for 30 overall, 3 for 13 on threes, still gets his 33 points, got to the free throw line, 6 for 9 there, and still had 5 rebounds, 8 assists. And I think that the big difference with the Luka of the past month, past 4 to 6 weeks, has been even on nights when he's not as efficient offensively, he's still contributing defensively. And tonight with the 5 stocks, 4 steals, 1 block, I thought he made up for some of the offensive inefficiency and offensive struggles on the defensive end tonight, and just switching across multiple positions, keeping guys in front and closing out, rotating. I also thought he battled a lot of contact tonight, and there was at least somewhere between 3 to 5 of those misses inside the arc, because he went 9 for 17 inside the arc, which is atypical for him. He's typically closer to that 55, 60% inside the arc. To me, like that easily could have been more 12 to 15 free throws tonight rather than the 9, and then we'd be talking about maybe a 12 for 26 game or a 12 for 27 game, and the efficiency would be balanced a little bit. So I think that I will note for those the field goal attempt watchers, we've talked about before where that sweet spot is of maybe like 22 to 24 field goal attempts. 30 is a lot on a night that he is not scoring efficiently. So that I think tonight the ball movement could have been a little bit better in that sense of I think 30 shots is a lot if you're not shooting it at a certain level. But with this, like this is all nitpicking because he just dropped 100 points in back-to-back games. Like he's been playing at an MVP level, carrying the Lakers offense. So I don't want to make like too much of this. I just, wanted to, and for what it's worth, he also had the best plus minus on the team. LA was plus 10 in his 38 minutes. So they won his minutes convincingly. He still carried the offense overall tonight, even if it wasn't the most efficient performance. And this, to me, does nothing to change his standing in the MVP race in like a negative sense, right? Because there will be the people who harp on the efficiency and try to like use this against him. I don't, agree with that. Austin, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 10 for 20 shooting, 2 for 8 on threes. So the 3-point shot continues to be a struggle for Austin here recently during some of his I'm not more so. I would say like the games where he's like not been getting to the 20-point mark. Part of it has been the shooting. Tonight he still got to the 20-point mark. I thought his ball handling tonight and being able to shake Jalen Suggs is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, but being able to shake him or Desmond Bane or whoever was defending him, I thought he did an impressive job tonight. And one of the most underrated parts of Austin's night, in my opinion, was the bucket that he got immediately after Paolo hit those free throws with about, or was it Wendell Carter? I'm pulling it up now, but I think it was like 7 seconds after they scored. It was Paolo. So Paolo hits 2 free throws, extends the lead from 102.99 to 104.99, and within 7.5 seconds, Austin pushes and gets a layup in early offense, and that play got the Lakers back to within 3 with 42 seconds left. Then Desmond Bane misses the shot. The Lakers get the rebound. Austin misses a 3, but then DeAndre Ayton gets a big offensive rebound, makes 1 of 2, and then we get into the final 5-second madness of this game. But I thought that was a really underrated play in the Lakers' comeback, because if the Lakers don't score quickly there, and that is more of a 14, 16, 18-second possession, that shifts everything back and puts more pressure on the Lakers to try to score and potentially even be in a position where they have to foul Orlando instead of being able to try to defend them there down the stretch. So I thought that was a big play, but Austin to me looked more like himself and looked more like the version of him we had seen going into this road trip. This was easily his best game of the road trip. First time he reached the 50% mark from the floor. And yeah, I mean, now that I'm looking at his game logs, like on the road trip, he has not shot the ball well from three. This was actually his second worst 3-point shooting performance on the trip. But in general, I mean, for the month, he's down to 34%. That has been swayed recently with the trip. Before that, he had a stretch of 4 of his previous 5 games had been 38% or better. So the shot's been up and down. It had been trending up recently, and then now it's trending back down. So we'll see where that normalizes going into the postseason. Then LeBron, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, gets the big stop, forcing the ball off of Paolo Banchero, and then also gets a possession where I thought he was fouled and should have been going to the free throw line, but it actually ends up working for the Lakers, where like LeBron was so open on that play that there was almost like too much time with the pass sailing to him and how open he was that they were able to recover to it. And if it was almost like he almost broke free too early, and it's always a good thing to break free early. It's just that they allow them to recover, but I think that should have been a foul. I think he should have been going to the free throw line, but it ended up working for the Lakers because it ends up getting blocked out of bounds according to the officials, and then the Lakers get the final possession along the baseline. Luka Kennard hits the game winner. This tonight, the usage shifted, and this is where I continue to harp on, like, I think it's really a matchup based thing where some matchups are going to be more of an Austin game, some matchups are going to be more of a LeBron game. LeBron's jumper was not falling tonight, 0 for 2 on threes, and missed a few shots in that mid-range to long 2 range, and just 5 for 13. He's typically a guy in that 55 or so % range. So had a little bit of an off night offensively. I also thought defensively wasn't as engaged and active as he had been recently. But even with all that, he made some big plays down the stretch. I think it was about a little under 3 minutes left. He gets that 24-second shot clock violation against Desmond Bane guarding him and moving his feet. And so, he had the Paolo assignment. Paolo had an inefficient night, 4 for 14 for him, did make some big plays in the fourth, but overall, I thought LeBron's defense against Paolo was good. I think more so when I'm thinking about like some of the rotation stuff, some of the low man stuff, some of the help stuff could have been a little sharper. He did get beat off the dribble a little bit, but he's 41 years old, and like there's going to be these types of nights. But overall, I've been really impressed with his engagement lately, and I thought tonight he took a bit of a backseat to Austin, who had it going offensively. And again, this is where I think it's just going to be, some nights it's going to be Austin as more the number 2, some nights it's going to be LeBron as more the number 2, and the Lakers are just going to figure that out on a night-to-night basis. DeAndre Ayton with that huge offensive rebound late, which is what allowed the Lakers to win the game, because if he doesn't get that offensive rebound, and he splits the free throws, so that could have put them in a position where if they just needed a 2-pointer to win the game rather than a 3-pointer, but gets the offensive rebound, 9 points, 12 rebounds, 3 for 4 shooting, 3 for 6 at the line, an assist and 2 turnovers. He scored 6 points in the first quarter, 2 off lobs, 1 off of an offensive rebound. He's been rebounding the ball at a high level, particularly on the offensive end lately. I have really liked his energy and effort on that end. I thought tonight he as well slipped defensively a little bit in terms of the corralling guys on drives, and just several times there was line drives against him, and he wasn't able to really alter or block the shot. In contrast with Jackson, who had 3 blocks, I believe at least 2 of those were directly on ball as guys trying to challenge Jackson. I think one of those was a weak side block, but that would be my only thing with him. But like he's been playing at a high level. I would have probably closed tonight with Jackson. I thought Jackson was better between the two. Like DA rebounded the ball better, which maybe for JJ was more important down the stretch. But I thought Jackson had gotten into a good groove offensively in the pick and roll, finding the pockets. And also his defense tonight, I thought was impressive with both switching onto guys, but also being a rim protector. Like this was easily to me Jackson's best game since returning from injury. And that's actually been the case in back-to-back games. I thought the Miami game was also his best game post-injury. So I think he's been building on that. And looking at these last 5 games, first 3 were rough against Denver, Houston, and Houston. Last 2 against Miami and Orlando, I think, have been better. So I guess I just talked about Jackson there as well. Marcus was living on the ground tonight and suffered that brutal hip tweak or fall and exited the game for a little bit, ended up coming back because, of course, that's just who Marcus is. But he had some big defensive plays down the stretch as well. And just his general defense and energy is something that this group thrives off of. 2 points, 0 for 3 shooting, just not a Marcus night offensively, but had a steal. And I think like it was clearly hobbled and just gutting it out and doing everything he could to be on the floor. And then in terms of the rest of the guys, I thought Jake came in and provided, like he had a big steal. I think it was in the first half and did Jake things, but the shot is still not there. 0 for 5, 0 for 3 on threes. Also had a stretch in the fourth where he picked up 2 quick fouls, and then that led to him going out once LeBron came back. But Jake, I think he's contributing more than the box score suggests, but it's been rough offensively. That there's no way around it. And I think for as good as he can be defensively and as much of an impact player he could be as a connector and with the little things, there is like a baseline level of offense they just need from him that they have been inconsistently getting. And that to me has been the biggest reason why his role has, I mean, go back a few weeks ago, like this guy was in the starting group before they went to like going back until Austin came back, he was in the starting group. And then even when, guys have been in and out of the lineup, it was like clear that Marcus was going to be the 5th starter, but that recent stretch, they went back to Rui actually as the other starter rather than Jake. And so Jake, I think, has gone from being, there's a big stretch there where he started to now being more of, I think, the 9th man in the rotation. And the biggest thing for me has just been the offensive end, as we've discussed multiple times. And then Rui has, like, interestingly, kind of being phased out of the rotation right now. Only played 15 minutes tonight. It's 5 straight games for Rui where he has played decreasing minutes. And now it's been 3 straight games under 20 minutes. I liked his first shift defensively and from an energy perspective. He had a block. He had a contested rebound. I thought he was getting after it. And then from that point on, just it's kind of invisible out there. Did hit a nice pull up. I mean, that one dribble mid-range jumper, doesn't matter who's on him, doesn't matter how contested it is. He always makes that shot, but only took 2 shots in his 15 minutes. And it does feel like the Lakers are more leaning into, I mean, they've leaned heavily into the starters, but then to a lesser degree, Jackson and Luke are like that's like the top 7 right now. And then Rui's role has been decreasing a little bit, and then Jake is more of the distant 9th man, excuse me. Then in terms of stat of the night, I'm going to go with same stat of the night as last game, but 1,612, which is LeBron's career regular season games. Past Robert Parrish now has the all-time record, also has the all-time playoffs record for games played. So with those two combined, he's played over 1,900 games in his NBA career, which is over 100 more. I think it might even be over 120 more than anybody else. Then in terms of takeaway number 1, got to go through the madness there of the last 5 seconds. So the Lakers find themselves down with 5.2 seconds left. And Lakers and inbounds plays. It's just always something crazy happens. But so Ayton misses the second free throw, and there's this weird. At first, it seems like there's maybe a lane violation on the Magic, but when you see the replay, there clearly was not. So it was just a timeout, but it was an odd delay there. So Orlando gets their timeout. I could tell within like the first second and a half that the Magic were not going to get open, and I did not really understand what they were trying to do on that final possession. And if you look at the win percentage probability at that point, Orlando had a 91.6%. Maybe that's the stat of the night. Orlando had a 91.6% win percentage probability with 5.2 seconds left in this game. And then Jalen Suggs throws a bad pass that goes off of Paolo Banchero. To be completely honest, I thought that was off LeBron, even with so they bring out the phantom cam, which they only love to bring out when it comes to LeBron for some reason. It brings back memories of last first round. I still didn't have there was the one angle that they first showed where it looked like it was off LeBron. Then there was a different angle that showed where it looked like it wasn't. Then there was another angle where it looks like it's skidding across his shorts, and shorts, I believe uniform is technically part of the body, but they don't find that, they don't deem that the case. So they rule that off of Paolo, give it to the Lakers. Lakers have the ball now with 4.7 left, as I mentioned. And actually, within all this, somehow, this doesn't calculate possession, because 0.5 seconds came off the clock, Orlando's win probability actually jumped up to 92.4 with the 4.7 seconds left. But they run the sideline out of bounds play. LeBron gets the back cut. Has, again, just the nature of how quickly he got open, plus the trajectory of the pass. It allowed Paolo to recover into the play. He blocks LeBron from behind, but there was contact. Should have been LeBron going to the free throw line. So in some ways, like Lakers benefited from a call, then they got screwed by a call, but it actually ended up benefiting them because then they get the Luka Kennard 3 to win the game. And I want to give a proper shout out to JJ and his sideline out of bounds plays, baseline out of bounds plays, out of timeout calls. The sets that he runs coming out of those are just incredible, fantastic, and they're unorthodox sometimes. They're a little quirky sometimes, but the first one to get LeBron, I mean, like to give up and LeBron had to travel like 15 feet or there to get from like sort of the screen point to the basket. So you have LeBron breaking free over a large stretch of the court, and so that's a brilliant play that the Magic just don't see coming. And then the final possession, they run this almost like a triple split action where it's almost like a flare for Luka. LeBron goes charging down the paint, and they love running some form of LeBron charging because he's so strong that there's a chance he just breaks free and gets a layup out of that. But then there's a miscommunication, between the Magic defenders. Paolo, even though they've already switched, I forgot who switched onto LeBron, but someone had switched onto LeBron. Paolo trails LeBron and then realizes Kennard is open too late. Kennard gets the ball, swishes it. Lakers win the game. Orlando, and the crazy thing was Orlando challenged. They lost their final timeout because they challenged that play on the out of bounds sequence, and it ends up going against them. It's an unsuccessful challenge. And then they lose the timeout, which ends up preventing them because there's still this box score says a second left. I don't think that's correct. I thought it was 0.6 seconds or 0.5. So they could have got a final attempt there in the half court if they still had their timeout, but that wasn't the case. So another clutch victory for the Lakers, another masterclass in crunch time, and just a wild final 5 seconds there. Takeaway number 2 is Luka's 16th technical foul and impending suspension. So this has been hanging over Luka for the last couple weeks since he got his 15th technical. And I think to his credit, he has been much better. We talked about it last show with towing that line and knowing this is like I think the volume of his complaints have gone down. They've not gone away, but they've gone down from maybe the typical level. But he also, I think, when he is complaining, it's less demonstrative. It's less of an extended complaint. It's less of sort of maybe showing up the officials. And because of that, I think he's been able to get some of his complaints still off of his chest while not picking up that 16 technical, which triggers a suspension. Tonight, though, he gets into it with Goga Bitadze, and in a really unique situation, steps like he's at the free throw line. He steps into the paint and goes and warns the ref about what Goga is saying to him. And thankfully, due to the lip readers of X, is saying something to the effect of like, I don't care if you trash talk me, but don't mention my family. Like, don't make it personal. And then I'll F you up, which totally understandable given all of the context here, all the background that Luka's going through. So Goga's, don't know what he was saying, but Goga's saying something to Luka to trigger him or to try to trigger him. And then Luka makes the free throw. And as he's jogging back, they are going at it and they get issued double technicals. So that means that Luka will be suspended for the Thursday. I mean, I keep thinking Thursday. It's Monday game against Detroit, unless it gets rescinded. But technicals are rarely rescinded. There are exceptions. And JJ already said after the game, the Lakers are going to fight this. They're going to petition for it to be rescinded. I'm like a little skeptical that will work just because of the nature of technicals are just rarely rescinded. It's typically, it's more so if like you did not say anything and they like an overreaction from the ref, but which I think this was, but clearly like he was saying something to Goga. I don't know what he was saying, and maybe there'll be the lip readers on that, or maybe I missed that. But if you are caught on camera, like he was clearly saying something in Goga's direction when he was issued the technical. Now, there's the whole morality side of this of Goga was clearly, or at least based on the interpretation of the situation, was crossing a line in trying to make this about something other than basketball, something other than on the court. And that's where this gets into this gray area of, I don't, like, I think if we're saying like what's fair or what's just, then if someone says something like that to you, I mean, if you're playing pickup, you're throwing hands, right? Like there is a line there of guys trash talk, and Luka first and foremost is trash talking. He's trash talking fans. He's trash talking refs. He's trash talking opposing players. So Luka gets that, but it's always within certain lines, at least to my knowledge. Like I have not seen or heard Luka cross any lines. It is all within the confines of competition. And this almost is getting into like a rap battle, sort of the lines within a rap battle of if you cross a certain line, then it's all gloves off. I say all this to say, like, I think it's a shitty situation for the Lakers. It's unfortunate if Luka gets suspended because of this. I think they will fight it. I don't know that they will be successful just based on the typical precedent of if you are issued a warning or if the ref says like, all right, both guys knock it off, like let's just move on. And then the next possession down the floor, you guys are both getting into it, regardless of what led to that. I mean, it's the same thing. We see it all the time in like, think about, I think that the best example would actually be a physical example of guy bumps a guy, two guys running up the floor, one guy bumps the other guy goes and shoves him. That guy gets the technical or the flagrant, and they don't go back and look at the footage and be like, well, this guy pushed him first, so let's rescind the technical, let's rescind the flagrant. It's, well, no, you then escalated it. You were the one who we caught pushing the guy, and you're getting the flagrant or the technical. So it feels like a verbal version of that. Of he obviously was not the only one doing it. It was a back and forth, and that's why they were issued double technicals. But the fact that it continued from that point, to me, despite the context of it and the very, I think, understandable and justifiable reason for Luka to continue to go after him, that I don't know if that holds up in NBA court, so to speak. But we'll see. I mean, Of note, though, a couple things with all this. So now Luka, it does give him kind of a free technical in a sense, because the 17th technical, he will not be suspended for that. It's now every 2 technicals, so he would be suspended for the 18th. So obviously you get on probation after the next one, but he could technically pick up one more the rest of the way without being suspended. Then that second technical, he'd get suspended, and then it does reset going into the playoffs. So he'll be back to 0, and then it's 7 technicals get you suspended in the playoffs. So I think he should be able to avoid that. As for the Detroit game, Detroit will be without Cade Cunningham. And I'm looking at, I know they beat the Wizards convincingly without him. They also just beat the Warriors without him. Warriors are without Steph, though. So those are 2 bad teams. But Detroit in that Warriors game, looking at it, Duran still had a big game of 23. Dennis Jenkins had 22 as now a starter. They had 6 guys in double figures in that game, and then against the Wizards, they had 6 in double figures as well. So it's more of an egalitarian offensive style now with Cade out. I would favor the Lakers even without Luka. I think Austin and LeBron should be able to carry the load, but it is now in play that the Lakers just lose that game and it's no Cade on one side, no Luka on one side, but I think it's at least a possibility now that the Lakers potentially lose that game. I'm still going to favor them going into that game if Luka gets suspended. If he doesn't get suspended, I think the Lakers will win that game and potentially win it convincingly. But if he's out, and even with Cade out, I think that's going to be a tough game for the Lakers. That's an athletic team, a tough team. They're going to muck it up. And the Lakers have been able to withstand that, but they've been able to withstand that in part with Luka scoring a certain amount, playmaking a certain amount, and just controlling the offense a certain amount that they will desperately miss. And then third and final takeaway before we get into the Q&A here. Just West standings update. So the Rockets just won tonight. They beat Miami by 1. So they maintain that 2.5 game distance with the Lakers. Though technically it's 3.5 games with the tiebreaker, but they're 2 games back in the loss column. Denver just won there, or not tonight, but yesterday. So they're 3 games back in the loss column, and then Minnesota lost to Portland. They're 3 games back in the loss column. So again, Lakers are up 3. If we're adding the tiebreaker in here, they're up 3 in the loss column against Houston, 4 against Denver and Minnesota. They don't play any of those teams again, so those teams can't pull off the "we beat you head to head," so that closes in a full game. It's really looking like the Lakers are going to be the 3 seed. I think based on the remaining schedules, Denver, to me, is probably going to be in the 4 or 5. I don't know if they're going to be 4 or 5. And then it's Houston or Minnesota that drops to 6, in my opinion. Right now it would be Minnesota in a 3-6 matchup and rematch with the Lakers and the Wolves. But I think things are looking good for the Lakers in terms of earning the 3 seed. And I still think Denver is the best of those 3 in the toughest matchup of those 3. So if they can get Houston or Minnesota plus the 3 seed, I think they are on the pathway to making it to at least round 2, and then likely getting San Antonio. But with all that said, let's get into the Q&A here. So Notorious CRG, already got to your first one. It depends on the vantage point with the... So you said ball off Banchero, foul on Banchero. I agree, foul on Banchero. The ball one was tricky for me. It really depended on the angle, but look, they deemed it off of him. So yeah, the regardless, Lakers got the win. So we could Zapruder film it, but Lakers got the call. Lakers got the win. And if they did call the foul on Paolo, then at best, I don't think they're doing the Austin. It was actually hilarious trying to see DeAndre try to miss the. That's how it could have gone, right? It was just a little bit too low, and it just carried him down. And if that happens in the Denver game from Austin, the Lakers don't win that game. So that was how that possession went. But if LeBron makes both, it's going to overtime most likely. If he misses one, then maybe the Lakers lose, right? So I think it ended up working out that they did not get the foul call there. Savage, thank you for the super chat. I'm surprised Luka didn't fight Goga for saying that about his family, because I don't know how many people that damn kind. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what he said. I don't know if Luka has shared what he said. I might have missed that post game. I'm quickly checking it out. Oh, he said, okay, so he said something about his mom. So Goga apologized. Sorry, I had not seen this post game. I was watching some stuff and taking some notes and wasn't as tapped in. And then, so I guess they got it, something about his mom. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I thought it, before seeing that context, I would have assumed it was based off of what's going on in his personal life that has been in the headlines recently. But that, I guess, yeah. I mean, those are fighting words. Those are fighting words. And if you're an LA Fitness pickup run, you are throwing hands. So yeah, I guess could have been worse. Could have gotten suspended for multiple games for punching Goga in the face. Connor Phillips, thank you for the super chat. This team has some magic. That tech was BS. F Goga. This team does have some magic, and that's what I was running through some puns before the show of what I wanted to say, and they extend their magical run. But yeah, I mean, this is just like, again, similar to the Miami game. That first half, it was just like, they don't have it tonight. I mentioned it, like seeing Luke Kennard hit the side of the backboard with a 3. That was just my sign that tonight was not the night for the Lakers. That previous game. Tonight, just guys are missing open 3s. Luka doesn't have it at the level he's been at lately. And it just felt like they were gonna lose. And even as I laid out, 92.6 or whatever probability for the Magic there with 4.5 seconds left, and the Lakers said, F your analytics, we're going to win this game. So yeah, that was a hell of a win for the Lakers. And yeah, I mean, the tech, I already covered it, but I don't think it gets rescinded, but we'll see. Peter, thank you for the super chat. Explain logic. LA closer to Spurs now. 9-game win streak. Nice. But San Antonio 21-2 in the last 23 with one being Castle missing a few games. If anything, San Antonio has separated itself from the rest of the NBA other than OKC. That's all fair points. I mean, to be clear, I think the Spurs are the second best team in the NBA, and I thought that before they passed Detroit in terms of win percentage for the second best record, because Detroit was, I mean, there's a stretch not too long ago where Detroit actually had the best record in the league ahead of ahead of OKC, but OKC took that crown back, and then San Antonio recently passed Detroit. I think it's for me, it's more so people can, I've already got some pushback on some of my MVP stuff with Luka, but with people pointing at Wemby, and I understand that. I'm not going to knock or shade Wemby. I think he is the best. He's the best defender in the league, but I also think if you want to make the case that Luka is the best offensive player in the league, or some people would argue for Shea, some people would argue for Jokic, that almost in some ways is the MVP debate is who's the best offensive player in the league. Whoever you think is the best offensive player in the league, let's just say for argument's sake, it's Luka. I think that the gap between Luka and Shea or Luka and Jokic is minuscule compared to the gap between Wemby and whoever you want to say is the second best defender in the league. So I mean that as high praise of Wemby is an elite defense unto himself. And we've seen high level teams and high level offenses struggle to generate good looks with him on the floor and just basically be afraid to come into the paint with him on the floor. Like there's a dramatic difference with their rim field goal attempts with him on versus him off. It's wild. So yeah, the Spurs are legit. The Spurs, to me, if we're doing like championship equity, I would give them the second biggest slice of the pie right now. OKC with the first, with the biggest, but I think that there's more to it than just the regular season. And I think for me, I'm more on the side of looking at NBA history and how a lot of these great young teams just have to go through their lumps. And maybe San Antonio is the exception here. Maybe they can go on a conference finals run in their first playoff run together. But typically teams with their profile lose in round 1 or round 2. I don't think they're going to lose in round 1. Whether it's the Clippers, whether it's the Suns, whoever they play in round 1, I think they'll win that series convincingly. But round 2, especially with how the Lakers have been playing, I think it's at least more of a competition there. Still, I've said I would pick, as of right now, I would pick the Spurs in 6 over the Lakers. So I think it's like that's maybe shifted a game. Like if you asked me a few weeks ago, Lakers and Spurs are matched up, I probably would have picked Spurs in 5. I think the Lakers have gained a game on them in a potential series. And if the Lakers continue this going into the playoffs and in the first round, then I think that becomes more of a 7-game series. Like I like this could swing in either direction here in terms of how I view the series. I'm not like locked into my take or my opinion. I'm more reacting to this now, but I just think the Lakers have shown us a certain level of, no, they did not beat OKC or San Antonio during this streak, but they beat basically everybody else. They beat the Nuggets and the Wolves and the Rockets twice and the Knicks, and they've had some really impressive wins, and several of those wins being very decisive. So I know it's not like the top 2 teams in the league, and the top 2 teams in the league have been distancing themselves from everybody else recently, but I think it's, I don't think that's a crazy take to think that they're closer to beating the Spurs now than they were 2 to 3 weeks ago. I think it would have been a pretty decisive series loss a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, with how they're playing and the teams they're beating and the way that they're beating those teams. I think it'd be closer. So, but look, San Antonio is great, and I'm not going to attack their championship case. I still think OKC's the best team and the team most likely to win the title, but San Antonio's played them well this season. They're 4-1 against them. So, we'll see. We'll see who's playing in mid-May and how things are going. Muad, thank you for the super chat. I do not see a question, but I appreciate it. Fadil, thank you for the super chat. I think Luka, LeBron, and AR had good moments, but they were all kind of bad tonight. AR was the best of the 3. Those 3 played bad, and we still had a chance not only to win, but we did win the game. Yeah, I mean, I talked about it at the at the top or during the notable performers section, but Luka had his most inefficient game in about a month. I thought LeBron was not quite himself on either side of the ball. And Austin still, from a jumper perspective, has not been there reliably. Also had 3 turnovers tonight and was in foul trouble with 4. So, they were attacking him at times defensively as well. So I don't think either, Austin had his best game of the road trip, but he had not been playing up to par on the road trip. Luka and LeBron, I think, both had their worst games of the road trip, and the Lakers still found a way to pull this game out. So that speaks to, sometimes you got to win ugly. Sometimes you got to gut it out. And the Lakers did that a couple times on this trip so far. And now they're going to have to close it out strong and potentially have another couple ugly wins. But yeah, I think it's very encouraging that they won the game this way. Thank you for the super chat. Can we talk about Austin's defense lately? He's definitely played like this before, but having Marcus this year is definitely given him a blueprint for how he should play defensively. Yeah, I mean, in general, like I mentioned, he had 3 stocks tonight. I think I've always been on the side of I think Austin's defense gets over criticized and over analyzed. This was a guy who originally got onto the floor for his defense. And as he has increased his usage and his role, there naturally has been a decline on that end. It's just really difficult to keep those. It's really difficult to be a two-way star. There are very few two-way stars in the NBA and true two-way stars. And it's just kind of natural that the more you do offensively, you just don't always have the legs to do. Like, there needs to be a certain level of compete and engagement and activity. So it's not like an excuse to not play your best defensively. But I think it's a little bit different when it's like someone like Ant, who, as I mentioned recently, has been called out by Chris Finch for his defense. But when you're an athlete at Ant's level, when you're in the 0.1% of NBA athletes, it's a little bit easier of an ask or more realistic of an ask. Like, you typically have to be that caliber of athlete to be a true two-way stud, whereas a lot of stars are worse on the defensive end, especially compared to the offensive end. But like, that just kind of comes with assuming a certain role, assuming a certain usage. The goal is like, can you be closer to average than like bad? And as I have mentioned at points this season, Austin and Marcus are the only two players who the Lakers have been better on the floor with on both sides of the ball, which I'm not saying that means that Austin is like some all defense guy, but he has been a part of good defensive lineups. And if he was this turnstile that sometimes people compare him to, then those lineups would have like for example, Luke, most of the lineups with Luke crush it offensively are bad defensively. But with Austin, it's been actually good on both sides of the ball. And I don't attribute that all to Austin, but I more attribute it to, I think Austin can be a cog in a good defense. And really, I mean, it's counterintuitive, but like the Austin Luka groups without LeBron, even up to this point, have continued to be good defensively, even go back to last season. So it's like those two, despite, if you were to poll the average NBA fan, the average Lakers fan, and ask them, why wouldn't Luka and Austin work together? People are going to say the defensive side, but that just has not been true up to this point, right? I mean, there's been a general ceiling on the team, but I don't think it's because of those guys. I think it's actually been more so the supporting cast is not designed to optimize those guys in a way that the Lakers really need them to. But I think Marcus has helped a lot of the group with the. I mean, I will say Austin's always been good with charges, so I would not put his charge drawing as something that Marcus like taught him. But I think in general, the team has been. There have been guys who have been taking more charges and following that lead from Marcus, but then I think that the handsiness and Marcus just is constantly stripping at the ball and smacking down on it or poking up at it. And I think that's been like a team-wide thing that the group has really gotten better with. The Enigma, thank you for the super chat. It's clear JJ doesn't like Vando, yet his contract is viewed negatively around the NBA. Are we really fixing to have him more on the bench until 2028? Well, I would actually say those two things are somewhat related. And this has been something that I've said this before, but I think there's a gap between, I think, how a portion of Laker fans view Vando versus like how a lot of the rest of the league views Vando. And I've said before, I mean, it's a negative contract that they've not been able to get off of. I think most people view him as a minimum level player who's like a fringe rotation guy. And the Lakers gave him a premature extension that has not aged well. And clearly JJ doesn't like him. So yeah, I mean, it's like they can't really trade him, but then he's also not providing value for them on that contract. And being an $11, $12 million guy who doesn't play. And then you also have another $11, $12 million guy in Maxey who is injured right now, but like even when he's healthy, like he's been in and out of the rotation. He hasn't been a full-time rotation guy or more of a back-end guy. That's $24 million on your cap sheet just right there. And then you have Dalton making $4 million, who's buried in the rotation. So that's almost $30 million of the Lakers cap, which is a significant amount that is going to guys who just don't play or don't play consistently in the case of Maxey, I would say. But Vando was obviously playing earlier in the season, but it's been clear, like when LeBron came back, he got the DNP CD for 8 straight games. As the Lakers' schedule started to tighten up here and they were playing some of the playoff level opponents, JJ has shortened the rotation to 9 guys, and Vando's been the odd man out in the rotation. So I think the Lakers will look into trading him this summer, but I think you're going to have to attach an asset to get off of him. And so I think that the biggest thing for Vando is just going to be to continue to work on his offensive game and get it to a point where he's had the stretches where he shot the ball well and shot it more confidently, but I don't think it's really affected how defenses have treated him and guarded him. And that's, I'll get the question from people of why doesn't JJ play Vando over Jake? And I think teams are they're starting to ignore Jake more and be okay with him shooting, but there's still, I think, a gap there in how they treat Vando versus how they treat Jake. And that's part of the reason why Jake plays over him. Although I know a lot of people disagree with it. Drew Tate, thank you for the super chat. Call me crazy. I would rather face the Thunder in the playoffs over the Spurs. I don't think we have anything to throw at Wemby. I'm not going to call you crazy. I think the Spurs are close to the Thunder's level. I think the Thunder are deeper and more versatile, and they also have the championship experience. Like I think that's the thing that I maybe disagree with people the most on is like I feel like sometimes when people talk about the Thunder, I think there's something like we've seen it time and time again with different teams, but I think there's something like you undergo a transformation when you win a championship, especially as a group that basically is running it back. Like they have continuity there. It's not like they made all these changes they added Jared McCain. They lost a couple back end bench players, but they have their full rotation and they've actually just added to it with Jared McCain and AJ Mitchell popping the way that he's popped. So it's like, I think even without those two players, if you just brought back the same exact playoff rotation, a big assumption here is J-Dub can get back and get back to being himself. That might be the one wrench in all of this that just changes the Thunder's ceiling. Like J-Dub was a huge part. There was stretches of the playoffs he outplayed Shea. There's a couple games in the finals he outplayed Shea. So they need J-Dub back, and maybe that lowers their ceiling, and that could be a factor of maybe you do want to play them instead of OKC, but instead of San Antonio. I think though, like based on everything we've ever seen in NBA history, like young teams typically, it could even be as soon as next season, but young teams rarely like win the championship in their first playoff run together. That's just not how this goes. It's usually a 2 to 3 year process for a team like San Antonio, which I think could win the championship. If Wemby can stay healthy the rest of this season and also stay healthy in future seasons, like I would not be surprised if he wins an MVP or two, if he wins a championship or two, if he wins multiple championships, maybe. Like who knows? I'm a little skeptical it happens this year. Could easily be proven wrong. I did not see them being the second best team in the league, so I was higher. Like I had them in the play-in mix. I thought there was a chance for them to be like the 6 or 7 seed. I did not see them being the 2 seed. So who knows? But to your point, Wemby is, I don't know what you do with him. Like I thought DA played him well in the first matchup and then poorly in the second matchup and then like okay in the third matchup. So we'll see what version of DA you get. But even with the best version of DA, Wemby's just too big for him. I also think, though, I think the Lakers are going to have a Shea problem. And I don't think the doubling and trapping is going to work the same way it worked against, like, say, Houston. I think we saw Denver try to execute that. We've seen teams try to execute that against them. And I think they're ready for it at a different level than they were last season. So ideally, you don't face either one of these teams, but I would still rather play the Spurs. Isaac, thank you for the super chat. Big part of Luka's shot attempts was that they were switching ball screens. Naturally leads to ISO ball, part of what makes the Magic so hard to play. Great point here. And I'm glad you brought this up. I mean, this has been one of the Lakers' biggest issues, even going back to last season. Even last season, pre-Luka trade, is the Lakers have struggled against switching teams and teams with a certain amount of size and athleticism that can keep. Like, I think if you think about the Houston game or the Houston set of games, to me, just on the defensive side, not on the offensive side, but just on the defensive side, Houston, to me, looked much better when they did not have a center on the floor and they were able to just switch everything, right? So in the first game, that was no Capella. And then in the second game, it was the non-Şengün, non-Capella minutes, which there weren't many in the second game. But I think that there's something to this of the Lakers devolve into an ISO-heavy offense, and it just kind of becomes, can they make jump shots or not, or can they beat their men off the dribble? But I think the teams that can switch often have the personnel to switch. Like the teams, if you're switching everything, you typically have the personnel to switch, or you're a team like the Lakers who are trying to hide certain guys and aren't confident enough in your point of attack defense. It could go one of two ways. But yeah, when the Lakers play a good switching defense, that to me is also part of the reason why the OKC and San Antonio matchups are a little scary, because both of those teams can go to lineups where they can just switch everything. And I think they have the personnel to make things difficult on the Lakers. But I'm glad you called that out. That is a good point with Orlando's defense. Is he a real one? Veda, real MC. No matter what provoked, thank you for the super chat. No matter what provoked Luka, didn't seem like it deserved a Luka tech, especially considering the suspension context. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think he should have been issued a technical, to be clear on this. My larger point is just that once the technical is given out, it is rarely rescinded, and they don't always factor in the context of, again, I use the physical example as, I mean, it could have even been, let's just say that the free throw interaction doesn't happen and Goga says whatever he says to Luka and Luka pushes him and gets the tech that way. They're not rescinding that tech regardless of what Goga said. Like, that's just not how this works. Now, this is a little bit more of a gray area here because it was something Luka said to him. Like, you know, they were drawing back and forth up and down the floor, or, you know, back down the floor. And I don't know what Luka said. I don't know what Goga was saying back to him and how it was escalating at that point. But yeah, we'll see. Well, maybe the league does rescind it. I just think based on history here, it typically does not get rescinded. Reeve Strongest Soldier. This was actually even worse. Goga just became a Lakers villain tonight. The Marcus technical was egregious. I think what was Marcus supposed to do there? And I do not think that was an intentional kick. Like, I think Marcus he's not on the Draymond Dort level, but Marcus does, toe the line a little bit with some of the physical play. And, you know, he's, I think, a guy who will maybe get up to that line, not necessarily cross it. But that, to me, what was egregious. I could not disagree with that more. The Young E40, thank you for the super chat. Lakers are serious championship contenders. I think they are entering that mix. I mean, I don't know what else people want to see from them other than maybe beating OKC, a full strength OKC, or maybe they're without J-Dub, but like close to full strength OKC down the stretch of the season. That's really like all else you could ask for. Like, because I think one of the big things with championship teams and teams to take seriously in the playoffs is they need an extended stretch of excellence. And this had been something that, like, the Lakers kind of killed two birds with one stone here in terms of showing they're capable of the mental focus and fortitude of a long win streak, because it does there's a reason why the teams, only so many teams reach 15 game win streaks, 20 game win streaks, 25 game win streaks, because it's tough. It's tough to win that many games in a row. And sometimes you have to even get lucky and have to have certain things go your way to pull out a win. But the Lakers have shown they can put together this stretch of 9 straight. They're doing it against a really difficult schedule. And along the way, they've beaten several teams in statement wins that, as we had discussed, they just did not have on their resume up to this point, recently here in the season. So they technically had the 7-game win streak at the beginning of the season. That one to me was far more schedule based. I went over it the other stream where it was like New Orleans twice, Utah twice, Milwaukee, the Clippers, and the Mavericks. I think those were the teams that they beat during that 7-game streak. And that was the 6-21 version of the Clippers, not the post 6-21 surging Clippers. So, I mean, they did not beat like a good team at that time. Milwaukee was probably the best team, you would say. And that was a really impressive win that they had. But it was not some great streak where they're rolling off all these impressive wins. It was they're playing bad teams and they're taking care of business. This is different. This is, yes, there's been a couple bad teams sprinkled in here, but this is a different type of streak. And the reason I bring this up, like, okay, Indiana and Chicago, sure. But New York, Minnesota, Denver, Houston, Miami, and Orlando were both rolling going into these games. The Lakers shut them down, both teams in the second halves. Like I didn't really mention it, but Lakers held Orlando to 39 points in the second half. I thought the defense largely was great, especially down the stretch there of the fourth. So yeah, I would not. I don't know if I'd put them in like the inner circle. I think that might just be for me OKC and San Antonio right now, but they are whatever's in that like next circle of teams, probably some version of I don't know who you put in the East. Like I guess Boston, maybe Detroit if Cade could come back healthy. And then I don't know if you put anyone else there in the West, like maybe Denver if they could get it together down the stretch here. But yeah, I mean, they're right there in that, I think, top 4 or 5 right now. Jordan Jones, thank you for the super chat. Does Gabe Vincent make that shot? LOL. And thoughts on Kuminga versus Warriors revenge game tonight? I'll say this. Gabe Vincent is not on the floor for that shot. So I think that answers that. And I had not seen the Kuminga box score yet. Wow. The Jonathan Kuminga experience, 2 points on 1 for 9 shooting off the bench in 22 minutes in a win over the Warriors. So it's still like he gets the win, but he doesn't have a good individual performance. That's that's gotta, like, the Warriors fan base was so split on Kuminga, and there's the Kuminga believers versus the Kuminga doubters, that him having a bad game, but then them winning and beating the Warriors is like, that's the chef's kiss. Musical K 420. LA needs, thank you for the super chat. LA needs one more guy off the bench. They should look for that. I know you've been on this. I just don't see them. Like, I think well, I was going to say someone has to be better than Jake. I know for some segment of the fan base, that's a low bar, but like, I think realistically, if we're looking at the Jake Vando level as like the 9-10 guys in the rotation, I don't see a guy that they could realistically add that's both better than those guys, but even if they are somehow better than those guys, like going to earn the trust of JJ down the stretch here. So I just don't, I don't see them adding someone in the final 3 weeks of the season, but could be wrong. Maybe someone shakes loose, or I think would have to honestly take an injury, which, like, knock on wood, you don't want that to be the context that this happens, but barring an injury for someone and them needing to replace someone in the rotation, I think that they're going to stand pat with this group. King Rifa _ Chifa. We get Tyson, aka Stewart, on Monday. Here we go. LOL. Yeah, maybe it's good Luka got suspended, and he would have gotten like a multi-game suspension based on going up against Isaiah Stewart. I don't know, but yeah, no, it's Stewart versus LeBron brings back. It was funny. because I actually skipped that game. Quick aside here. I skipped that game. It was on, I believe it was on the Grammy trip, if I'm not mistaken. And this was the year this was the Russ year. So full disclosure, like least favorite season I've ever covered in my career. And I mean, I think for a lot of Laker fans, that's like the worst. I mean, worse than like the mid 2010s or late 2010s. It was that 2021-22 season was just, it was a rough season to put it kindly. So Lakers Grammy road trip, I believe. And they go from Detroit to New York. And for some context, like my mom is from New York. My brother lives in New York post-college, or, went to college there and stayed out there. So anytime, and I just love New York in general. So anytime I could go to New York and make something of a trip out of it, I do that. So go out there with my wife at the time, fiance, and I skipped the Detroit game because Detroit was not good. The Lakers weren't good. And I was like, I'm going to get like a couple days extra in New York for this segment of the trip. And like, it was okay. Like, they wanted sometimes you to skip some games on the road. So I was like, I can skip a Detroit game to go to New York instead. Then I remember we're out and we're having a night out and I'm keeping up with the game. And then all, the stuff goes down and I just could not believe that happened. And I could not believe I missed that game. And that is still to this day, probably like a top 3 game I'm really upset I missed. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes Monday. Euro, thank you for the super chat. As a Bulls fan and paradoxically a LeBron fan, you do not see that very often. So you're right. That is quite the paradox. I was really hoping you guys picked up Io. He would have been the perfect Caruso replacement to better contend. I really wanted Io as well. I'm high on him. I thought that was a huge pickup for Minnesota. I don't know if he's quite as good as Nickeil Alexander-Walker, especially with what Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been able to do in Atlanta. He wasn't the same player necessarily in Minnesota. He had the same maybe potential, but like wasn't doing that on a nightly basis. But I think that's a big pickup for Minnesota, and I really like him. Ahmed Braun, thank you for the super chat. What's with LeBron passing up wide open threes? He hasn't been shooting bad lately. He's just putting his head down and attacking on wide open looks. It's a good question. I think for the season, he has not shot the ball well. So more recently, on the season, he's shooting 32%, 31.8 if we want to be technical. And he had been for the month of March, though, he's shooting 38%. February, I didn't realize February was this rough. He shot 26% on threes in February. January was 34. December was 31, and November only a few games, but 33. I mean, on the one hand, I respect it to a degree because I'm more of, if a guy's like, there's a delicate balance with it, but if a guy's like not shooting well, then I don't think they necessarily need to force it. Like, and it's one thing if you're a Vando and really your primary way to generate offense is going to either be offensive rebounds, cuts, or open corner threes, right? Like that's the bulk of Vando's. And I guess we could like lump in transition with the cutting, right? Some form of cutting either in the half court or transition, offensive rebounds and putbacks, and the open corner threes. When you have like that limited of of an offensive role and like a shot diet, then when you are open from three, you need to take that three, especially, and Vando's been shooting the ball better this year overall. But with LeBron, I mean, he can attack you in so many different ways that I don't mind some of them. I think there are probably too many in general that he does pass up. Like I would say definitely not the contested ones. Like I don't necessarily want him taking like step back contested threes, but if he's open, I mean, he's a good 3-point shooter. He's become a good 3-point shooter over the second, I would even say before the second half of his career, but especially in the second half of his career. And just look at the last 2 years. If we want to say like looking at the more recent version of LeBron where he hasn't been the same level of athlete that he was earlier in his career, he's been a 40+% catch and shoot guy the last couple of seasons. So I'm with you. Like, I think he should take them. Just getting into his head, I think LeBron is always calculating what's the best shot, and he's not going to force things. That's just never really been in his nature, which for some people is what they love about him. For some people is what they don't. But I'm with you that he has the proven track record that if he's open, assuming it's not just like 20 seconds left on the shot clock and it's an out of rhythm shot or just not the right shot, he should take it. So yeah, I think he could do a better job with that. Then going a few more minutes here before I wrap. Musel K 420. What about someone like Banton, 6'8" point forward, or Malachi Branham? So the other thing here that is tough for the Lakers with the whole adding someone is they don't have an open roster spot. So you would either have to waive Maxey, which I've argued his role recently, pre-injury, just like his role in level play, they've been playing the three-headed center monster, or three-headed monster at center, which is maybe generous, but we'll be generous there. And there are some games where he was the one closing or being the primary center based on the matchup. And then he also has the relationship with Luka and JJ. And for that reason, I do not see a realistic, unless Maxey is cooked for the rest of the season physically, I don't see, which I have no insight on, and like I have not heard anything to that effect. I don't see a world in which they waive him. The only other person that would potentially be waived in that case is Kobe Buffkin, but he was crushing it in the G League. That's part of the reason why the Lakers brought him up to the official roster. And the Lakers have not, I've said this before, but like they've not been a team that will cut ties with guys that quickly and sort of maybe admit that it's not like the best fit or best situation. So while JJ just not even played Kobe Buffkin, so we don't even know what his real fit or role is, but I just don't see them waiving either one of those two guys. Manthan, thank you for the super chat. Should I believe, or is it regular season variance? Last season we played hard and even beat the Timberwolves before the playoffs, only to be beaten pretty soundly. You're pouring some cold water on all the optimism right now. I will say I think this is more real than last season. Now, last season, I thought they were going to beat Minnesota in round one. So, my official prediction was Lakers in 6. It was Wolves in 5. So I was just a little bit off there. There's like, we're just not going to know the answer to this until the playoffs and what they look like in the playoffs. I will note, I'm sure for those who follow Krangis on X, you saw some of his tweets today about the Lakers' defense during this stretch and how a lot of it seems to be coming from 3-point variance in a positive way in terms of benefiting the Lakers, where they are, I believe, allowing the 12th most open threes. He was just looking at the 8-game win streak going into tonight. Over that stretch, they're allowing the 12th most open threes, but opponents are also shooting the worst 3-point percentage in the league on open threes and overall. So his point was essentially that the Lakers are benefiting defensively, not offensively. Well, offensively, they're shooting well as well, but like I think that's been trending in the right direction for a bit here. But it was more so like the Lakers are benefiting from shot variance in like a negative sense for their opponent, where their actual defense, like they're still allowing a bunch of open threes and opponents are just not making them the way that they were earlier in the season. So I bring that up because I think I'll say I believe more in the offense than I do the defense. I still think I want to see a larger sample size here with the defense. And to me, there's a big difference between, can they be, for however long this stretch ends up going of like them playing at this high of a level, let's just say it's the rest of the season. So that they would have 11 more games. If we're now looking back on this final 20 games of the season, are they closer to being a league average team defensively, or are they closer to being a top 10 team defensively? And as minuscule as that might seem like, 10th ranked defense versus 15th ranked defense. I think that to me will determine my confidence level in their defense and to a greater extent, like their overall playoff viability, because the flip side is I'm very encouraged by the offense. I'm very optimistic on the offense. And I think they are actualizing their offensive potential and being that top 5, top 3 offense we thought they could be. The question mark for me in a broader sense is still the defense and how real some of this defensive success has been, because I mean, there clearly has been an uptick. Like, I just forget all the numbers. Like, from an eye test perspective, I think guys are playing harder. Guys are more connected. Like tonight, the first quarter, for example, I thought they played really good defense. They just gave up a bunch of offensive rebounds, which has been a struggle for them post All-Star break. They've been doing a terrible job on the defensive glass, and they gave up a bunch of threes. But it was like within a lot of possessions, they defended well, and someone wouldn't rotate out, wide open three, or someone would get an offensive rebound, put back offensive, drive, kick out for a three, something like that. So for me, I think the offense is real. I think they are finally clicking and firing on all cylinders on that end. I think the defense is clearly better than it was before, but to what degree and how sustainable is that in a playoff context? That to me, because I would say that was the thing for me that I know the Lakers had some rough fourth quarters, rough second halves in that Minnesota series. And the numbers actually might suggest it was more the offensive end than the defensive end. I feel that I think they were more disappointing for me on the defensive end than the offensive end. And the gap between them in last regular season, especially starting that late December, early January stretch, compared to the playoffs, I think what was pretty wide in terms of what they look like as a regular season defense versus what they look like as a playoff defense. And that, outside of health right now, I think that would be my biggest concern, is just how sustainable is some of this defensive improvement. And because go back to last regular season, JJ had a bunch of great schemes and specific game plans. I think about the win in Denver when I think they beat them by 15. Think about the way they were guarding Jokic 94 feet and just fronting him the entire way and then sandwiching him on a bunch of possessions. And basically we're going to let anybody else touch the ball outside of Jokic. And then teams started copying that. Remember, several teams had that game plan following the Lakers doing that. And so that they had all these little unique game plans that they had that were a little bit out there for each opponent, and it worked. Then come playoff time, they had the initial game plan against Minnesota. Minnesota shredded that in game 1. And then the Lakers were grasping at straws for the rest of the series. So I also think there's an element here of ideally the first thing works or works longer than a few minutes into game 1 before they have to adjust. But I'm hopeful that JJ can make those adjustments quicker than he did in last first round series. Jordan Jones, thank you for the super chat. As a Wizards LeBron fan, our fight against OKC might be our highlight of the season. Wow. So we got some interesting fans. We got a Bulls LeBron fan and a Wizards LeBron fan. Also, do you believe Prime LeBron would have been able to play in the NFL? And if so, at what position? Tight end? I do. I do. I mean, you see his high school success and winning state championships and having state records. I don't see why he would have been able to do that in high. I mean, there are several elite athletes who have played multiple sports and could have gone pro in multiple sports. I view LeBron the same way. So I think likely at tight end, I think he's maybe a little bit, I don't know, he could have been, I guess a taller Lamar Jackson quarterback, but I think more likely would have been as a tight end or wide out. I mean, pretty big wide out, so probably more so tight end. But I think, his hands, we've seen it, especially thinking about prime Miami days and just the connection that he and Wade had in transition. And I think that's a really underrated part of LeBron's game in general, is that LeBron catches. I would say he's not been as sharp the last couple of years, just with age and whatever, but go to prime LeBron and early career LeBron, he caught and finished everything. And that's been one of his greatest things has been, I think, his hands and the hand-eye coordination. So I think he could have. Musical K 420. JJ needs to start playing Kobe because our bench is garbage. Thank you for the super chat. To be honest, I think this is the bench moving forward. I think this is the 9-man rotation. JJ is gearing up for the playoffs, and there'll be situations maybe in which someone gets injured, someone gets in a foul trouble, it's a blowout, and he goes deeper into the bench. But I think these are the 9 guys, and we'll see. Maybe Maxey comes back. I wouldn't be surprised if Maxey comes back and he's actually the 10th guy and Vando's the 11th guy, and it's just Vando's in Siberia. But I think JJ's rolling with these 9. And NBA Enjoyer, thank you for the super chat. Just finished the game. Secaucus tapped the International Space Station feed on my goat once again. Alex Jones level ref conspiracy fuckery. I'm sick. Excuse my French. Yeah, I mean, I think they've brought it out like a few times, but 2 of the times have been with LeBron. It's hilarious because I'll say I can't remember the last time I saw an out of bounds call like sequence like that where they brought it out. Because just thinking about it, there are games where there are bang bang sequences like that where it's sort of off someone, or it's off someone, you just don't know who it's off, and they don't pull out that camera. So yeah, with LeBron, they're like, we have to be 100% accurate that it's I don't know, it's hilarious. I also loved LeBron's reaction to it. I'm sure you guys saw the clip of LeBron reacting to it from the bench when he saw them put that up there. He was like, this again. Let's bring it back to Minnesota series. Pleasers, thank you for the super chat. Don't do it, Lakers. Don't give me hope. LeBron, number 5. I think this is a perfect place to wrap. They're doing it. They're roping you back in. They are giving you hope, and much better shot as of March 21st, Saturday, March 21st, 9:29 p.m. Pacific time. Lakers, I don't know where exactly their championship odds are, but I would say they've increased by a significant amount compared to where they were 3 weeks ago. And significant might only be a few percentage points, but that's significant in the championship equity pie. So yeah, I mean, they got to keep it up. No, as Kobe once said, job's not finished. Like you're not satisfied with a 9-game win streak. You're not satisfied with the 3 seed. They got to keep this up for the next 11 games and then go into the playoffs ready to take game 1 in convincing fashion against whoever they play. But they're doing it. They are roping you and I and everybody else back in. But shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody. Appreciate you guys. I will be back on Monday after Lakers Pistons. And then Tuesday, Lakers Collective, and we'll probably be doing a pod with a special guest on Tuesday. But shout out to the chat. Shout out to the Late Night Gang. For those watching on YouTube, we got over 1,300 of you in here. Please consider hitting that subscribe button if you've not done so yet. Also consider liking and commenting. And for those listening on audio, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back Monday. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Shout out to the Late Night Gang. Lakers are rolling 9 in a row. Turn these 6 upside down into a 9. Talk to you guys later.